Don't want you to sit here silent.
Actually, you are live.
Oh, they don't make us see it.
There you guys are.
So we're on?
Yep, you're on.
Hello everybody, we're on. Yes, welcome. I'm Will Malambry.
And I'm Sally Malambry.
We're welcoming you to our home and our first ever Facebook Live event. Both for Blaine, as far as I know, but certainly for Sally and me in our participation. And we're glad you've joined us for this. We are also joined by Sean Garble, cameraman, but he's also here to help us learn from you and hear from you. So be sure to note that there's a chat room feature for you in this Facebook Live event, and you can share your thoughts and questions, and as we have time, Sean will share some of those with us, and look forward to responding to that. Quick review, we've begun now our Be Renewed series, and we had our first sermons this past Sunday with those. Hope you've had a chance to participate in that worship service and hear from us. Some of the things we talked about during those sermons was how we get renewed, and we talked about serving others or being attentive to others can help to renew our hearts. We talked about being empathetic, so recognizing what's going on in somebody's life, and it helps to realize we're not the only ones suffering or struggling. And during a time like a pandemic, when our lives have been changed so much, it's hard sometimes to think anybody else might be going through. But when we are attentive to other needs, it helps to pull us out of our hearts being despaired, maybe. I reached out to you all and asked you to consider how your hearts are renewed, and shared a little about how my hearts are renewed. So my heart is renewed by doing things sometimes, doing things that are different than maybe my regular schedule. So if I cut the grass, that's not something I do on a daily basis. And that change in schedule and that activity that's productive helps me to be renewed, my heart to be renewed.
I like him doing that activity also. It's a win-win.
We all are blessed by that. Sally and I were talking just recently with Sean this evening about how running for us, all three of us, can be a diversion and a way to do something different and be renewed, not only in our body but also in our mind and heart. So that's another thing that we share and enjoy doing together. I talked to the Sunday school, or listened really to the Zoom Sunday school class, and that's something that we encourage you to be part of each Sunday at 10 o'clock. And this past Sunday they shared some of their thoughts. And one person sticks out to me when Karen said every single morning to set her day right, she reads Romans 12 verses 9 through 20. And just hearing those reminders of how we're to treat one another according to Paul in that chapter helps her to start the day of, this is how I should approach others. Many people talked about prayer and other devotional times as getting their day off to a good start. There was talk about trying to be around positive people and positive things to help lift our hearts and keep those from struggling. So I appreciated the comments from the class. We'll get into some more of those in a bit, but I want you now, maybe in the chat room, to share some of the ways that you get renewed. How does your heart get renewed? And I want to hear from Sally, because you've heard from me on Sunday, or if not, the sermon's available to you. But Sally, how do you help your heart to get renewed?
Well, as you mentioned, running, exercise, walking, just being outside is one way that I definitely renew my heart. And also, I like what you said about the person from Sunday school who reads the same verse every morning. I think that's really important. Something interesting that happens to me, and I think it happens to a lot of people, is that if you have the same verse in the back of your mind, that verse will pop up when you need it the most. There's one that I've had since high school from Isaiah, and it's they that wait upon the Lord, they shall mount up with wings, with eagles.
Wings like eagles.
Wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not grow faint. So that's one that comes to my mind a lot, especially when I need it. And I also think Bible studies and Sunday school classes are wonderful, but I also think just spending time with other people who share the same faith as you, just to have natural, relaxed discussion, is another way that my heart is definitely renewed. Just having coffee together, just spending time together is a great thing to do. And I know that during COVID, it's been kind of tough, but that is something I enjoy doing.
A couple people in the chat have mentioned gardening keeps them renewed.
Great.
Trying a new recipe.
Yes, cooking. Yes, definitely.
Walking on the beach, of course, which everyone here loves.
Right.
We're lucky. I get renewed when I'm with the kids in the Sunday school class. We have another mention of being renewed when your child snuggles with you.
Nice.
Which, of course, there's no feeling like that, I know.
That's right.
And we have, yeah.
Those are great ones.
Those are great. One of those, the part about teaching Sunday school, I'm a teacher. I teach precious second graders, and I will say that children can renew your heart so quickly. I mean, you can be down and out and spend a little bit of time with any group of children, and your spirits will definitely be lifted, and you'll probably be entertained as well.
And you'll be tired, so you'll sleep better that
Yes.
night as well.
Absolutely.
Someone else mentioned in Sunday school, Amplify, our new media service that we can be part of as a Blaine Church family member. She said that watching some of those shows and videos has been a great help for her during these days of being less interactive with other people out and about. And then some actually mentioned that they were starting to make the connections that Be Renewed is hoping we'll make. So the renewal of our heart, we hope, leads to other acts that are responsive, with a renewed heart, more joy, more peace, and more generosity. And we hope that is a natural response that comes from it. And some people mentioned in that discussion on Sunday how the practice of giving has been for them a way of furthering their life in Christ and the ways that they have seen growth. I'm going to say how they said it. It said it leads you down the path of Christ. When you're more generous, it leads you down the path of Christ. And so we want to spend a few minutes talking about that. You're hearing from us today. We're 45 years old. We have teenage children. We've been in the workforce for a little while. And so we're at a certain stage in life that some of you resonate with, some of you are beyond that, and some are coming this way. Next week, you'll hear from Kate Ritchie and JT Brown, and they're going to tell us about their lives, and that includes being, in school and newly out of school, no children. And then in a couple weeks, you'll hear from the Dusenberries, Isaac and Kate, and they'll tell us about, early on with an infant child or toddler. So different stages, we hope will help think about this differently for each person involved.
Can I throw something in?
Of course. How would I say no?
You triggered a thought that I was having, but another way that my heart is renewed is when I do some type of mission project or outreach project where it's almost as if I forget about myself and I focus on something else, something special for someone else in need. I think that really helps. I think it just puts things in perspective. Mm-hmm. And I think everyone, there's so many great mission opportunities in all churches, and especially in United Methodist churches, and especially at Blaine. So I know that a lot of church members at Blaine probably also feel the same way, that doing some type of mission work, project, to help others is a way to renew your heart. It definitely renews my heart, and I think it does yours also.
And that triggered a thought in me. So I was thinking when you talked about putting things in perspective, how there were 2 or 3 years in a row in the 2000s where the church we were serving went on a mission trip, and I was able to go with them. And about that spring before that summer mission trip, I would be so tired of this old Honda Civic I was driving around, and I'd be itching to get a different car. And then I'd go down to Peru or Costa Rica, and I'd realize what a blessing it was to have anything, that operated well. And it just, it didn't mean that had I gotten a different car, that would have been a wrong thing, but it would help me remember the perspective that wasn't a priority, and that, there are a lot of ways to have joy in life that aren't so material. I needed that regular reminder, and I honestly probably need it again right now. But it is good to have those things to put us back into perspective.
Definitely.
So a question we received via email was, how have we grown in our understanding, our theology of giving over the years? And I wanted to kind of trace that story for you a little bit. I'll start with my own thinking on that, and Sally has wonderful thoughts too. As a teenager, I guess, I was taking scripture very seriously. I was starting to consider things like ministry, and even without ministry, it was just something that mattered to me in a way that a lot of things didn't. And as I would dig through scripture and I would study, I really became sort of convicted that this tithe thing, the 10% of whatever you receive, knowing all of it's from God, the 10% of it is to be given back. And I just took that seriously. So my grandmother would give me $100 and 10 went to the church the next Sunday. And that became a real habit for me, and brought that to our marriage. And Sally, was right there with me on that, which I understand now, having counseled plenty of couples since then, that's not necessarily a conversation that's easily had. There may be one person who sees a certain percentage as the threshold, another person who sees a different one. And I want to be clear with you, there are a lot of matters where we do see finances differently. We have different priorities about maybe how to spend our money. And as I tell the couples that I counsel, as long as it's our money, not her money and my money, that it makes the conversation important that you have this, God has blessed us with these things and how to steward them or care for them. But that was really a relief in a way, that was something that we both thought as a priority, that we are called to tithe, to give our 10%, and then to make offerings above that and give beyond the church in other ways as well. So I'm grateful that we had that. But we were having the conversation about, when, and has Sally comment that
yeah, and when we first got married in 1999, I was not in a regular routine of tithing. I would give to certain charities occasionally and that type of thing, but I did not give 10% every I was paid. So when we got married and we started doing this, because I knew that it's what we needed to do, and Will knew it was what we needed to do, and so we decided together to do it. But it was not always easy. There were times that it did hurt, and there were often times that I thought to myself, I could use that chunk of money each month for so many great things that we need. But I guess when you form a habit, you just get used to it. And over the years, and Will was about to, I truly that the money is gone, because we've been doing it for 21.
Yes, ma'am.
21 years. So it's definitely become just natural for us to do. So I really don't miss the money that much.
And it's funny how our perspectives, 10% of a little, the number doesn't look too big. As you get more, the number gets bigger. And so Sally was saying that she doesn't notice it, although there are times in the month when it feels like, oh, that seems like a lot. I don't really notice it because she does a lot of our finances until the end of the year. And then I see the total number, and I'm like, whoa, we could have done these things with that money. So we feel it at different times in the year. But it doesn't feel like a sacrifice, I don't think. At least it doesn't to me.
No, and whenever we get the year-end statement with how much we've given, I always think, we aren't so bad after all. We've done something right.
Well, and we were talking about what makes us happy about the giving, and you mentioned that we know it's going to a good place. So maybe say something about it. It helps to know that we're giving money to a place where they are going to use the money wisely and for people who truly need it.
And because we're part of a church that's part of a bigger denomination, we know that the United Methodist Church, we know their missions, we know what they do with their money, and so it just helps knowing that we're giving towards that, to the operation of the church and to the missions of the church.
There's a really nice comment from Pam, and she says, I always think of it as the miracle of tithing. You may not think that you can afford to do it, but once you do it, there seems to be enough money.
That's right.
That's excellent.
A great point, Pam.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, and when it's, again, when it's not what's left over or not, one of the things that I like to think about, the old word, I guess, was, a pledge. And I like the new language that lots of people are adopting, which is estimate of giving. And I like that because you're thinking, you're making an estimate because you're being intentional as you imagine what your next year's finances might be like. So we have the conversation every year of what do we intend to give? What's our estimate for the next year? And so we're thinking through our finances, and I like the intentionality. So Pam's right that it sometimes it feels like maybe this isn't, but it will work out. But also giving that forethought to say, this is what we plan. And when it's part of your overall financial picture, not just what do we think we have left or what do we think will work, to me it works out better.
Yeah, I can tell you that if we just waited until the end of the month and said, oh, we'll just give what's left over,
Right.
we would probably not give much.
It would, I think that's right. Especially on, Amazon Prime Day or whatever.
Yeah.
They would have gotten
That's
more
right.
today.
The automatic draft works very well for us.
So it does feel good to be part of a larger ministry and know that it's going to be used well. For me, I'll be honest with you, I feel less guilty about some of the other ways we indulge ourselves. I mean, we do live well, and part of my feeling less guilty about that is knowing that I've at least sought to reach that threshold and hopefully beyond it as often as we choose to. But I don't feel as guilty about it because I know we're trying to do what I think is at least sort of minimally expected of us. And then there's that reality that it's all God's anyway. I think John Wesley, our spiritual founder in Methodism, he is said to have had the same kind of starting salary and that he lived on. And when he realized he could live on that, as his salary went up, he kept living on that because his point was, this is all God, so why don't I share more of it as I'm capable of sharing more of it since I can live by it?
And you just had a very interesting moment because Charlie, as you were saying that, right as you began, had said, everything comes from God. We get to keep 90%. It's almost as if you read that comment, how simultaneous it happened.
Great minds think alike, Charlie. Very good. And one thing I'd also like to point out, and so we're wanting you to read through this booklet and see where you think you are and where you aspire to be. Give the thought to intentional giving and where you are, and as you read through it, hopefully you're inspired to make a next step further down in the booklet on this path, this journey of discipleship giving. We feel like we've gotten to the intentional, I think that's the one they call it, or the sacrificial giver level. So we have more to aspire toward, the lifelong giving. But in our doing that, I want you to know that what we think we've gotten out of it, our great blessings. We've talked about the blessing of being part of something else. We've talked about the blessing of feeling like we're doing part of what is expected to us. I think another gift has been deeper faith because it requires us to trust. If only thing we trusted in was our own financial resources, if that's the only thing we trusted in, we wouldn't share as much out of it because we would have to hold that tight. But I think it causes us to trust God will continue to provide and things will be made available to us. So it's an act of faith to give, and I feel like it's something we've gained from it.
Another great comment from Betty was, I'm thinking God is a better investor than I am. And I enjoy guessing if we had a part in this or that.
That's terrific. I like that. God is surely
That's
wiser
really
than
neat.
us. Yeah.
Something else that's happened to us recently that has made us very happy is that our son started working, and when he received his first paycheck, he immediately said, I need to give 10% to the church. It wasn't even a question. He just knew it because we've always done that and talked about how we do it. And so now he's doing it, and hopefully our daughter will do it also. But it's one of those things where I think, the children see us doing this and want to follow by example.
Yeah. And that was another kind of magic moment where you're on a delay, so they didn't know you were going to start saying that. But the immediate question was, how much guidance do you provide for your teens in making their tithing decisions?
Yes.
So you were right on it again.
And we did not even talk to him about it beforehand. He just offered it up, but we have talked about the importance of tithing. So
I remember when they were young, I really wanted to do that 3-jar system, and we did it a little bit, but I think we could have done a better job. But if you're not familiar with it, to have a jar where 10% goes in and it's considered the savings, and 80% would be kind of their money to deal with, and then another 10% is their tithing. So they start to do the physical work of recognizing all three are important. You need to live on a portion of what you are entrusted with. You need to be able to share a portion of that, and then you want to save a portion to build towards the future. So hopefully they're getting the model, even if we don't have the jars on their dressers anymore.
8 minutes.
So a couple of things from Isaac's sermon I thought were helpful to point out, and if you haven't listened to it yet, I encourage you to. He talked about giving, beginning in thanksgiving. So I think that's a great reminder too, that we are grateful for all that God is providing for us and all that is entrusted to us. And so with thankful hearts, we then want to respond. He went on to say it's not transactional, and I think that's an important corrective, that sometimes people think, I'm going to put God in my debt. I'm going to give, and so God has to do for me. And of course we know it's the opposite, that we are in God's debt, and we're not trying to buy or purchase God's favor. We are not trying to get good vibes from whatever. That this is not a transaction, not a purchase, but a response to God's graciousness in our lives, a response to God's, Jesus is very clear. Jesus, if you think we're talking about money a lot, you haven't spent a lot of time with Jesus. He talks about it a whole lot, and what he does is remind us that our worth is not found in our finances. Our security is not found in our finances, but our finances do give us a means to help others. And of course, he was all about us taking care of one another, loving our neighbor in a variety of ways, which includes the service we talked about, the time we offer, but also our finances. So I wanted to point out that Isaac had some great points in this sermon that are worth remembering too.
And it's one of those things that it's bigger than us.
Mm-hmm.
So tithing, it's much bigger than our own needs.
Yes, for sure. Good. Any other thoughts from the chat world to share with us, or questions out there?
Just a comment that you guys are mind readers.
Yes, we've been listening in. Is it your Amazon Echo that we're paying attention to?
One thing that we discussed, I'm kind of changing subjects and going back to the beginning, was we talked about how renewing our heart during COVID times is a little bit different, and how I feel like you just have to be creative. Sean mentioned walking on the beach, but for those of us who live around here, perfect opportunity to spend more time walking on the beach, and we've tried to do that.
Right.
But you just, you have to be creative. It's not, you can't get together with friends like you want to. So I don't know if you want to add to that any.
No, I think that's right. It's and that's kind of one of the challenges, one of the questions I put before you Sunday too was, since things aren't going back to the way they were anytime soon, how can we find renewal in the way things are? And I think that's what you're saying is, we are blessed to be in I feel for people who live in a major city with serious restrictions, and you look outside your 800 square foot apartment at an open park that nobody can go into. We've never, where we live, had to deal with that. We've had the freedom to responsibly go on beaches or parks or in our neighborhoods or whatever, and I'm grateful. So, being creative to try to approximate in an appropriate way now for the things that have brought you renewal, or explore new ones. Maybe if for us we had said all too often. I mean, we can count. We think this fall about the number of years where we had like 8 weekends in a row where we were rushing off somewhere and trying to get back in time to lead worship well, and how we had for so many years said, wouldn't it be nice to stay home for a season? Well, we're finding out what it's like. That it's not all bad. It's a different way, and we miss now some of the things we've been doing in the past. This would be our college homecoming weekend if things were normal. So we would typically be up there. We're not. But what are some ways then in this time that we can renew together? And
I feel like we've really tried, and we've really savored the time that we've had together and with our children and just our family of 4. We've really savored the moments. We've started watching a TV series together, and we look forward to that. The 4 of us love sitting down and watching that together. So just different types of bonding.
Yeah, for sure.
And we're at a time, and maybe we should leave on a question that we can all ponder. And it's from an Isaac D. who asks, Will, who would you say is your favorite associate pastor at Blaine? Asking for a friend.
Well, thank you, Isaac D. I will have to give that some thought, and maybe by next week's Facebook Live, we'll have a reflection for you. That's
Thank
a great
you for watching, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Anything else, Sean?
Just a lot of really thankful people with a lot of responses that are great. Can't read them all, but they're in the chat. And people can always also, just so they know, they can look at this video afterwards. It will be saved.
Great. Well, thank you all for taking some time on a Tuesday evening. Don't forget, next Tuesday evening, 7:30, you'll get to spend some time with JT Brown and Kate Ritchie. And we'll join you in the chat room and enjoy learning some more together. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.